Hello. Another week 2, Sock-Tober. Yeah, another hotel room. It's all right. I did go home on the weekend, so that was good. It's fun. So this week I brought my own vehicle because we're driving out to site, then getting to work cars. And quite frankly, we're down in Victoria and there's big windstorms and rainstorms and stuff everywhere. Up home, it's like 33 degrees Celsius, feels like 40 and sweaty and horrible. And down here, I'm wearing cardigans. So I actually pack this. This is a store bought and it's really thin, but I pack it in the bottom of my suitcase and it just stays there for when I'm away for work, just in case. And I am so glad I brought it, because otherwise, I mean, it is, pretty much high-vis orange, but everything I have for work is high-vis orange. So, I save my pretty colours for home. Anyway, what progress have I made? So this is the car bag. Some people have asked me where I got this. So this is a Keep Your Knit Together bag. I did actually get this at the Australian Yarn Show back in March, earlier this year, along with most of my little stitchy marker things. Lovely little Australian animals and Rosie the Riveter, which I love. And Wonder Woman, obviously. This stays in my bag. I throw it in my work backpack because if we get stuck sitting in the car, I like to have something to do rather than talk to, the people that you work with, because I'm old and cranky. I don't necessarily want to talk to you if it's wet and miserable. I'm not very nice. So, is what it is. Anyway, I showed you these last week. These are my ladies' sockettes. Made heaps of them before. This is a 1960s pattern book. Might even be 70s. I think it's 60s. Late 60s, early 70s. Recommended price, 40 cents. So that's that. These have been around forever in some incarnation since the 1930s. I finished sock 1. Yay! Haven't blocked it. But you know what? Socks are meant to have negative ease. And while I do wash them, and they do look very, very pretty on, those lovely display blocking, wooden blocking things, you don't need to block your socks. Opinion. Argue with me in the comments if you will. Put them on your feet and wear the damn things. That's what they're made for. And like I said, they're meant to have negative ease. They will stretch out. Look at this sock yarn. Yay! Anyway, sock 1 done. Sock 2 underway. Not an exact match, obviously, but you know what? These are for me. The yarn is pretty. I don't care. If I was making these for a customer or, as a gift, I might give a toss that the yarn starting there doesn't match the yarn starting there. Today I don't. It is nice though, look. I do actually have several balls of this, or hanks, whatever you want to call them, of this Hobie yarn. So I might just keep knitting socks out of it, and some of them might actually match up. We'll see how they go. But looking forward to wearing these. I have been wearing And excuse me while I show you my grotty foot. I have been wearing my fixed up old socks. And they are perfectly fine. This is more Hobie yarn in like safety pink. Now I knit these socks, I'm going to say back in 2014. There was a life event that was happening in that year that I know where I was and where I brought the yarn and when I knitted the socks. So I can date them to June, July 2014. So that makes them 11 years old. I think they did pretty damn well to last that long. And now that I've put new toes on them, hopefully they'll last massive amounts of time later. Longer, sorry. Anyway, end of the day. So we went out on site this morning, and like I said, there's massive wind and rainstorms. We worked until about 9:30, 10 o'clock, and it just was gale force down here in Victoria. So they called a rain day. So I've been mucking around in the hotel room, on the computer pretending to do work the entire day. Anyway, I thought I would show you what I bring with me when I have my own vehicle and I can pack a project bag, because I never know what I'm going to feel like at the end of the day. Like today I have a little bit more energy, so I would probably try something a bit more complicated. But most days, especially if we've been doing hand excavations, digging those little holes with the string lines around them and stuff, I'm exhausted by the end of the day and I can't concentrate, but I do need that little bit of downtime to just, get my zen back. But I need something that is just whatever, and it doesn't matter what it looks like, or it's mindless knitting, stockinette, something like that. Socks are great for that. Anyway, this is the bag I bring. It's my carrot bag that I got from a supermarket. And this week I just threw stuff in it because I have barely been home. I did spend the weekend at home, which was good. Sometimes that doesn't happen. But I think if I didn't do it occasionally, Mr. Vintage would be calling for divorce. So probably good. This week I have some lovely gelato cotton. This is 50% acrylic, 50% cotton. I picked it up at an opportunity shop or op shop, thrift store, whatever you want to call it, where you're from, for $6 for this whole bag of stuff, which I think is great because there's like 9 balls of yarn in there. A couple of them have had, don't have the labels and have had a little bit taken off them, but I don't think that's a significant amount. And for $1 at the same shop, I found a whole bunch of little mini hair ties, which I think they're brand new. I think I shall attempt to make some mini scrunchies in lovely spring colours, because that's what they are. Look at that. And I can match most of these colours up with the yarn. So that should be fun. On top of that, Notions bag. And this has a few crochet hooks, a needle gauge, a little container, a little baggie full of, random stitch markers, my scissors, my tape measure, some embroidery needles. What else? Oh, business cards, because they're important. Stitch holders, pins for sewing up, and my little bodkin holder. This was a gift from someone, and it's my favorite thing in the world. It's like a little lipstick for your sewing needles. It's fantastic. So I actually call these a bodkin bag because you put your bodkins in it, which is your darning needles. So I think that came from my grandmother. Not sure. But anyway, this was, you know, just some random denim pencil case that I found somewhere, and I love it, and I've had it for years, and it will never go away. Okay, what else is in the bag? Various size double pointed needles. There is a reason for that, because I am still working on my 1940 stockings. So where are my rib stockings to give me ankles I can be proud of? Let's see how that goes. Anyway, since last time I talked to you, I have made a little bit of progress. And I think I said this last time. These actually, it's a 6-row repeat. It's actually quite simple, but they do take a little bit of concentration, and they're in black. Why on earth I decided to do these black? I think because I know that basic black will go with everything. Anyway, in the last week or so, I've only got that far. But I'm nearly up to the ankle shaping. So these need to be 22.5 inches. I think I'm at about 18. So we're not that far off. 19, maybe. I haven't measured them for a while, so I might do that. And this is also using Hobie yarn, which I have a lot of this lovely plain Hobie sock, 4-ply sock yarn. And it's doing the job brilliantly. Hobie, I'm still very disappointed in you for dumping us here in Australia. But I digress. Speaking of Hobie yarn, this is my other project. I think I showed these on Instagram back in July when I first started working on them. Hobie sock yarn. And I finished well, I haven't grafted the toes together. So technically, is that finished? No, it's not. I have left a string to do it. These are what I am calling my son-in-law safety socks. Our second youngest daughter is engaged to what we here in Australia call a chippy. So he's a builder, carpenter. Like, he builds stuff with wood. And his favourite colour is pink. So Hobie did this lovely neon pink yarn. You can actually get Fieldwork clothing in this colour for when you have to wear what we call high vis. So I'm calling this high vis pink, and I have used a little of the black for the cuff and the heel, mainly for ease of if I need to unpick it and re-knit them, like the heel or the cuff or anything like that. It makes it easier. And it's also the same yarn that I used for fixing my socks. So that's number one. I do need to do number two. I'll get there eventually. So that's another project in there. What else do we have? This is the fun one. This is a pattern from 1915. I do actually have a pattern from 1860 printed on the back. I have handwritten this one out. This was the grey sock pattern, which is the pattern, the official pattern that was distributed for knitting socks for soldiers in the trenches in World War I. It's knitted in grey wool, obviously, in the equivalent of 8-ply on 2.5mm needles, which is old money number 10. I finished number 1. Now, I have made these before for Mr. Vintage. He wears them as work socks. They're very thick and heavy. They're really good for your gum boots, actually. They're very stretchy. Wool is stretchy. Look at that. So that's a men's size sock, but look how far it stretches. So if your fellow is like mine and he doesn't have big feet, he has long feet because he's actually 6'5", so he has really long feet and what I call finger toes. He has really long toes. This actually stretches out and makes a really good sock. Again, not blocked. I will wash them before I hand them over, but don't necessarily block my socks. So the only problem I have is we're on sock number 2 and I don't think I'm going to quite have enough. I think I've got the equivalent of about 8 grams of yarn left. And if I try and match these up, hang on. Put him like that. If I match them heel to heel, I've still got this much to go. So fortunately these are from Mr. Vintage and they were a way of using up, you know, whatever happened to be floating about. This is a wool acrylic blend, so it should wear pretty well. I may have to do the toes in a different colour or a different shade of grey, depending on what I can find in the stash when I get home. I will just keep going until this runs out and then panic about it later, I've decided. Probably not panic, just find something that matches, sort of. Or make them, you know, odd. What else do we have in the bag? This I will probably leave till later. This is very vintage and very, very lovely, and I'm very excited about it, and I think I will make an entire other video about it. So you're not seeing that one now. What else do we have? I still have my lovely Bendigo Woolen Mills yarn, which I've been fiddling with and doing a few swatches and casting on and unpicking and all sorts of stuff for another vest. So I think I've come up with something I like. We will see. Oh, there's some work stuff in the bottom that I'll just ignore. The other thing I have, which is not knitting, but it does involve yarn, sort of, is, you remember back in 2020 when we were all locked in our houses for a year and had nothing to do? So we took up new hobbies. It's not quite a new hobby. I've always loved embroidery and stuff, just have never had the time for it. Did a little bit of, dabbled as a teenager, but never actually did anything with it. I found this lovely Australian company that does historical reproductions of things like, you know, cross-stitch samplers and stuff. So this was a kit that I brought based on a sampler from 1802. The company is still around and still selling samplers and stuff. I'm not sure if this exact one is still available. It was a kit. It came with this one and this one, which is, you know how the kids are all putting those tags on their backpacks for school? This is a scissor fob, but I kind of liken that to, you know, the keychains that all the cool kids are putting on their backpacks for school. But this one's for your scissors. You know, make embroidery cool again. So anyway, it came with all the bits and pieces. The key fob, the only thing that it doesn't come with is the wadding to make it, you know, puffy. So this is my yarns. Tiny little needle. And it's beautiful. It's actually quite soft, this linen thread. And I am very, very proud of myself, because this is where we're up to. And when I picked this back up, I think I was up to the G. So I've just kept going, getting there. But why I am proud of myself is usually the back of my embroidery looks like a dog's breakfast. Apparently this is what it's supposed to look like. Nice and neat. So the only problem I have with this is it is so fine. It is one strand of embroidery thread on a tiny little needle. And every year these glasses get thicker and the eyesight gets worse. So I can only do this when I have proper daylight in front of a window. So I wonder if, you know, our old-fashioned ladies and our medieval women and stuff actually had the same problem. Imagine being a seamstress or an embroiderer back in like Tudor times or something, and you didn't have glasses. I do know that they had other things in place to be able to, you know, enlarge stuff and that, but how hard would it have been to make a living if that was your job? Anyway, that's what's in my bag. I am going to go off and potentially work on some of these. I will probably put my car socks back in the car bag. I'm not sure whether I will work on my stockings or trying to finish those grey socks. But I have options. That's the beauty of bringing a large bag of stuff. Or I might just go and read my book. This week we're reading A Daisy Dalrymple Mystery. I don't know. These are so easy to read. It's almost like, I don't know, back in the 80s, those Barbara Cartland novels that people used to read just because they could. You know, they were a little bit saucy and naughty and easy reading. These are not like that. These are more along the lines of the Miss Fisher murder mysteries based in the 1920s. You have a female heroine who has a policeman off-sider and she solves murder mysteries. You know, not quite as involved as the Agatha Christie mysteries based in Britain, whereas Miss Fisher is Australian. They're fun. They're fun. They're easy reads. You know, if you want to do 5 minutes reading while you drink your coffee in the morning before you head out for field work, or, you know, 10 minutes when you get back home and you've had a shower and you're waiting for your family to ring and see how your day went, or, you know, to say goodnight to your kids and stuff. It's just easy reading. So I might read a chapter. Anyway, have a lovely week. I will be back again next week and I will show you where I have got to with all of the socks. I think I have 4 pairs now on the go. Do stockings count as socks? Yes, they count as socks. I've decided they count as socks for Sock-Tober. I will catch you later.